Alright, Gaui Nation, we're going on to the next step tonight. I figure I got one video done, we might as well move on to the next. I've got it apart here. I did notice they labeled the previous step where we built the head as step 4. They also labeled the next step doing the tail as step 4. So we're going to call it step 4-2 just to make things simple so we can try to keep our numbers in line with the instructions. So in this particular setup, we need all the pieces and parts for the tail. Tail boom, tail belt, which I've already pre-installed. We'll kind of go into that in a little bit here. The spindle for the tail with the gear, that's pre-assembled that way. Both halves of the gearbox, the belt tensioner pulley, both of your fins. You need the tail grip assembly, again, that comes pre-assembled that way. The tail blades that come in the kit, or if you just want to use something other than those. I'm going to have some halos on mine eventually, but I think for the initial test flights, because I tend to chew up the nicer tail blades, I think I'll leave these on just to make sure I don't destroy the nicer stuff. We have the grip for the joint for the rear where the rudder control comes in at the back, the slide on the back, and then all the miscellaneous bolts. You've got some 3x6 that go through the top fin. We've got some 3x10s that go through the fin there. We've got some 3x16s and some 3x22s. The only thing that you have to put Loctite on in this particular set is the little Allen set screws that hold that to the tail spindle, and I've already pre-Loctited those. This isn't too bad. It's pretty straightforward as far as the way everything goes. The hardest part, honestly, is getting the spacer in here and just kind of getting it all set in the space and getting the belt through the tail boom. That's always a fun trick. So I don't have it set here, unfortunately, but I always use a piece of mechanics wire with just a little loop on the end of it. I run it down, grab the belt, and pull it on through. I've seen people use compressed air. I've seen people just fight with it and keep pushing and prodding. I've seen people use the tail boom support rods and kind of get on there and push it down through. Whatever works for you to get that belt through. That's the most important thing, is that you get the belt through. So we're going to start off. Your main rear spindle through the housing. Pretty easy. Alright, nothing big there. Now we get the belt on there. And to begin with, don't worry about the alignment of the housing to the boom. You know, you got that Gaui lettering that's on the boom that you want people to see. At least I'd hope so. I'd hope you'd be proud to fly Gaui. But don't worry about the alignment of that just yet. You'll have plenty of time for that. And then we can kind of get this somewhat into place, and you might have to work that belt to kind of get it in between the halves to make sure you don't pull it out the other side when you do it. Now, shaft coming out the opposite side. If we look, you can see the bearings going in that direction. So that's the closed end, that's the open one where the bearing went in. We're going to put it in just the way the picture shows it. Alright. So, and that's about as crazy as that gets. Now you got to kind of play with that boom to get it set right where you want it. Like that. I kind of slid it way down, pinched it all together, and then slid it back in, and it actually fit in. Now let's take a look here. What do we got going on? To hold that bearing in place, we follow it back. It's a 3x16 that comes out, and then a lock nut on the other end. So we might as well go ahead, take our 3x16, it's the only one that size. We're going to run that through that bearing. We're going to take our lock nut, which is a 3 by 5.5L, and our 2.5 mil hex driver, and we're going to tighten that puppy up. Again, remember, you don't have to kill these, just right until they're stuck, especially with these, because we're dealing with plastic. You don't want to overdo that plastic. Alright, so now the other thing I didn't go over is the tools we need for this step. 2.5, 1.5 hex driver, just like normal. Phillips, I'm using in this case the 5mm Phillips that comes in the larger Scorpion kit, and then the 5.5mm nut driver. Pretty standard stuff there. So now we've got some 3x10s, I believe these are. Yes, 3x10s. We're going to go ahead and sneak those through. And nothing Loctited in this particular case. I keep pushing off camera there. I apologize, guys. Get back up here. So 3x10 in that very, very rear. All right. 2.5 driver. Snug it up. Alright, so at this point we got two. Let's leave this a little loose. Let's loosen this back up. Why don't we worry about that alignment on where it says Gaui right now. Alright, so you're never going to get perfect, but why don't we call it right about there. That's what we're going with. And go right there. So now we can tighten those up. Those probably wouldn't have stopped us, but we don't want to find out after the fact. Another 3x10 through that bottom hole right there. Same thing, lock nut on the other side. Nice and easy, nothing to it. Right on through. All right. Now we've got two of the 3x22s, and this is what's really going to tighten it up on here, because you notice we're still kind of a little sloppy. So we're going to go ahead and do these. They come through that side, through your tail fin, and then our lock nut. Same thing on the bottom one. Through the plastic of the gear housing, through your tail fin, and lock nut. Again, these are going to be a 2.5 nut driver, or excuse me, hex driver, and a 5.5mm nut driver. There's nothing there to hold those. And this is what will really snug it up on that tail boom. So make sure you've got it in just the right spot before you really, see, like that. I was backed out just a little bit, and so now we're gonna snug her up. Lots of little stuff you got to pay attention to when you're doing it. So take your time. Don't rush it. I'm making mistakes tonight because I've been up for a long time. Long story made short, we had our daughter in the ER last night, and then I went to work. Came home, took a little nap, but obviously back at it. I think it's going on 11:30 at night now, so I really should be in bed, but I want to keep working on this for you guys and for me as well, so that's what I'm doing. Alright, so we got all those snugged up. Your basic gearbox is together. Now we're going to keep moving on here with the rest of it. Alright, so we got our slide assembly here. We're going to slide that right over. If you look at it, you can see those arms kind of make a Y. You want that Y to point outwards. So here we go. Y is pointing outwards. Alright, next thing we got is our blade grip assembly, which has these two little set screws in it. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember what size those are. They're probably a 3mm if I had to guess. Yep, 3x3mm. And you can, if you look real close, you can see the dimples in that shaft. It's going to be these outer dimples that make the end of this flush right here. So we gotta make sure we get that just right. We're going to go ahead and take our 1.5 hex driver, put it in the, go ahead and get it, put it in the nut, and I can see that that divot's pointing straight at me, so I'm going to get this down here and get it real close to flush, and I'm just going to wiggle it just a little bit. Once you get down there close, you can kind of sort of start to feel that divot, and it'll kind of set itself right down in there. Alright, so snugged it up, then we'll snug the back one up, and this one will be set and ready to go. Don't forget to Loctite those, guys. I did that prior to doing this build video, so those are Loctited. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the last two pieces together. Now this is actually going to require Phillips, and it's these itty bitty tiny Phillips screws in the gold colored spacer. So the spacer actually goes through that lower arm. I use the screw to push it through, some people don't. And I bring the grip down and try to get it lined up. There it goes. And we need our Phillips, and we tighten that bad boy right up. Again, don't over tighten it. You want things to be able to move freely. Just snug it up. Good to go. Make sure you have your blade grips the right way. You know you'll have them the right way if the circle's facing out and the hex for the hex bolts on the inside. That's a quick and easy way to know. Rather than spinning that and fighting with the belt, we're just going to turn it the other way and do the other small screw. So again, I like putting the spacer on the screw if I can pick it up. There we go. It's probably hard to see on the camera, but we're going through the slide and into the blade grip. All right, we're looking really good there. Okay, so now let's get the control rod lever put on, and we're going to need a few pieces here. We got another one of those wonderful gold spacers. Got the screw that goes through that. What size was that? That's a 3x15, what I call plastic screw, Phillips head plastic screw. Goes through with the ball facing away, and then there's also a spacer that goes on the bottom there. Okay, that spacer, and then we thread into the hole right on the bottom of the gearbox here. Again, don't kill it. It's not something we got to have a strength competition with. It's a pivot point more than anything. Right there, tightened up. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I'll have to edit that part out. Alright, so we got the lower level in place, lower lever in place, excuse me. We're actually not going to end up doing the horizontal fin this step. That'll come in step 5, so we can ignore those. So the last thing we got to do in this step is put on our tail blades. So Gaui facing out away from the boom, obviously. The 3x16 bolts on through. Nut on the back side, and you know what? I still forgot to do that, but we'll get that here in a second. Alright. And then so the 3x16 bolt goes through the blade grip, and you got the nut on the back side for it, and the 2.5 mil hex driver to tighten it all up. Alright, so don't want them too overly tight. Yeah. I'll leave them there for now. And then same thing on this one. This one side says Gaui, the other side does not. Gaui faces out. And again, the 3x16. Once I get the holes lined up, as well as the nut on the back side. Alright guys, I need to tighten that up just a little more. I'll tighten this one up to match the other side. There we go, got them pretty close to same tightness. And then last piece we got is actually here, and I'm actually going to loosen this Phillips up because I honestly forgot to snap that down over there when I was doing it. So we're going to loosen that up just so we can get a little bit of play to get that over that ball stud. And if I can't, oh, got snapped, no problem. And we'll tighten that Phillips back up. And if you couldn't see that because of the camera there, it's that L-shaped control lever goes over that ball stud on the slider. Alright, there you go guys. We've got a tail box on a tail boom, Gaui facing out. We can spin our blades. Actually, it feels like I've got it twisted already, but there we go. We can make them spin with the belt. So next step, it looks like step 5, we're going to be putting this tail boom assembly in with the tail sport booms, or tail sport rods, horizontal fin, all that good stuff. So hey, I appreciate it guys. Hope you guys get out and get some flying in, get your Gaui grin on, and we'll talk to you on step 5. Thank you for your time. Hope I'm helping you out. If you got any comments, questions, tips, concerns, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment, and I'll answer as quick and as fully as I can. Thank you much guys. Talk to you later. Bye.